I started doing workshops and doing groups where I'm getting up in front of others, like outside of the gym setting, and talking about resilience and perseverance and goal setting and vision and taking action.
You should know what 1 hour of your time is worth. You should know the value that you bring to the marketplace. You know what your passion is.
Starts with clarity of vision. If you don't have the clarity of vision, whatever next thing you get, you're not going to see it through because you don't have the clarity of vision. So the point of my pain was being told you will never run or jump again. And all that stuff, I was like, you know what? Like, I want to be able to take this even bigger.
If you know why you do what you do, you have to know how to charge for what you do. That's how you're going to change your life, and that's how you're going to leave a legacy for your children and your family. You got to know your worth.
Happy Tuesday, ladies and gentlemen. This is Rob, and I'm back with episode number 388 of Shut Up and Grind. We're all about overcoming obstacles, defying the odds, and inspiring you to clear whatever's blocking the path to whatever success you want in this lifetime. So today we're going to be talking about when you stop fighting, life begins. And before I bring my guest on, you know I have to do my little monologue here. So what that means to me is one thing people always say is, I hate change. Okay, if you hate change, then don't complain about staying the same, right? Because you can't stay the same and change. Life does not work that way. And if you're the same person at 50 that you were at 25, there's something wrong with that. Like, you always want to be growing. You always want to be learning, because it's not, it is what it is. It is what you're allowing it to be, right? You guys know in this show, it's all about accountability. I've been through some messy things in my life. And it wasn't until I was like, you know what? How did you let that happen? No, instead of blaming and pointing other things, other people, other incidents, I was told I would never run or jump again. I chose not to believe it. And here we are, 200 races later, 200 plus. So your life can be whatever you want it to be. You just have to decide what you want it to be. All right. So helping me have this conversation today is Daryl Dittmer, and I hope I said that correct. He shares how his life, once lived in chaos and self-destruction, transformed into something meaningful. With my blind self, I should have made this bigger. Grounded and expansive, starting with sobriety, but going far beyond it. This isn't just a recovery story. It's a blueprint for building a life rooted in peace, purpose, faith, and balance. Daryl, welcome to the show. How we doing?
Hey, thanks, Rob. I'm doing great, man. Thank you. How are you?
I'm great. Great. So you said you're down in Georgia?
I am. Yeah, it's going to be almost 70 degrees here today, so I'm pretty happy.
I'm in New England, and I don't want to hear your warm weather BS.
I figured you might not want to hear that.
All right, so let's just dive in. So you heard the intro, you know the flow of the show. So we're going to start off by learning a little bit more about you, and then we're just going to dive right into this topic. So how would you describe yourself?
I would describe myself as stable, solid, and conscious.
Stable, solid, and conscious. All right, so let's start with stable. What does that mean to you?
It means that, once we go through those waves in life and those things that tumble over us and things that knock us down, and we have to get back up, and we have to get knocked down, and we have to get back up. I've done that many, many times in my life. And at this point, it takes a lot to shake my foundation. So I would describe myself as confidently stable.
See, so along the same lines, I say I'm emotionally unbreakable. Emotionally unbreakable.
I like that.
Nice. All right, so you said solid. Let's dive into that one a little deeper.
Solid is similar. It has to do with building myself, and I've been building myself for many, many, many years, and I'm going to have to say decades, because because I unbuilt myself and I was shaky and I was flimsy and I wasn't solid. So I had to build myself in my body, in my mind, in my heart, and in my soul. And you had mentioned balance earlier in the intro, and that's really what it's about for me. So building that solid foundation makes me a solid human being.
Like it. And last but not least, conscious.
Conscious means I'm not getting knocked over by every little thing that comes along. I'm not, being knocked off of my center because I don't align myself with, oh, well, my group says this, or my, whatever, my political group, my religious group, whatever. My life is lived on a daily basis. And there's nothing wrong with groups, and I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that for me to be conscious, I have to pay attention to now. I have to pay attention to what resonates for me in my life, and not just follow a crowd and believe it because, quote unquote, they believe it. I have to figure things out for myself. So that's what conscious means to me, and following that path.
I love that. And along those same lines, I always say that I've broken free from societal stigmas, completely broken free. It's like, I don't think a certain way because of my skin color. I don't think a certain way because I'm a man, or because I'm this, because I'm that. I broke free of all of that maybe 15, 20 years ago. And I'm my own person. I have my own thoughts. I'm living my own life. I have my own approach to things, and I'm unapologetic about it. Do I know everything about everything? Absolutely not. But I'm willing to learn what I need to know and do what I have to do to get there. But to overcome anything, not just me, anyone, to overcome anything, you have to be defined at your core. And that's why that's the very first question that I ask every guest. When people say to me, like, oh, you were told you would never run or jump again. How did you X, Y, Z? Right now, currently, I'm day 29 post other knee. I had a full knee replacement. The doctor told me, the physical therapist told me yesterday that I'm doing stuff that they usually don't do with people in month 3. And I said, because before I even had the surgery, I was already planning my recovery. I was like, I'm not going by your timeline. I'm going by my timeline. And just yesterday, again, after 28 days, he says, you pretty much have no restrictions as long as it's comfortable for you. So from what I'm gathering from you, you're forged from a similar cloth, yes?
I would think so. It's funny you bring up the knee replacement. I had one 4 or 5 years ago, and it was the same thing. You got to get your knee down to the mat, right? The back of your knee down to the mat, and they're like, "Wait a minute, you're not supposed to be doing this so quickly." You know why?
Yeah.
Because I don't care about the pain part, and that comes with limits, obviously, but I'm not gonna do something stupid, but I don't care about the pain. I care about the journey and getting to where I want to be. And I think that's a crucial part of life. And that's part of, one of my mantras is when I stop fighting, the fighting stops. And I mean fighting myself. When I'm fighting myself, and I'm fighting change, when I'm fighting doing the right thing, when I'm fighting what I know is right because it's difficult, that's the fight. If I'm jumping in and I'm doing it and I'm conscious and I'm moving forward with that purpose and that meaning, just like the knee replacement stuff. That's where it's at, man. That's how life doesn't change, right? We change, and then we change our lives. And then as we change, we can also change other people's lives, which is obviously what you're doing now and what I'm, trying to do with my life.
Yeah, love it. It's like our philosophies are very similar. Like with what you just said, like that's where Shut Up and Grind came from. I remember I was a guest on someone else's show, and he's like, so I got to ask you, he's like, why are you telling people to shut up? I'm like, no. So I'm not telling people to shut up. I'm getting people to shut themselves up. The imposter syndrome, the self-doubt, the lack of confidence, all of those little voices in your head keeping you from doing that thing that you actually want to do. And again, I lived this. I spent 20 years in the restaurant industry. And why? Because society said, if you don't have a college degree, you're going to end up pumping gas and flipping burgers, right? And I bought into that because I ended up dropping out of school. And I had that in my head. So I'm managing restaurants. Okay, I'm in charge of my schedule. I'm doing my thing. But it wasn't what I wanted to do. Again, at my core, I'm a competitor and an athlete. And again, you can't tell with the background, but I'm sitting in a gym. So now I work with fitness clients. I work with track and field athletes. And now I'm speaking. Like, I always wanted to be on TV or something. And this is my own platform. It's like I can come here and talk about whatever I want to, you know? So with all that being said, what is your internal drive to do the things that you're doing?
My internal drive is because I have to, because I know that if I don't, I am not living my life. And that's it. I mean, it really is that simple. If I wake up in the morning, and that can be a lot of different things. I mean, that can be from simple as making my bed, which, you know, my wife and or I do every single morning. We make our bed. It's the simple things, right? It can be from that to, you know what, I'm going to take that risk. I'm going to invest in this. I'm going to start that podcast. I'm going to start speaking. I'm going to do things that I'm uncomfortable doing. I mean, that's what drives me, because I know after so many years of doing this stuff that there's no excuse that works. There's, you know, oh, I'm afraid. Oh, well, who cares? Who cares if you're afraid? You know, and I'm not belittling the fact that, you know, sometimes we feel fear. I mean, I feel fear sometimes, but that doesn't mean I stop. That's actually an indicator that I need to go. You know, the fear is an indicator that I need to go, not stop. And I think that's what can delineate people who are showing up for their lives in every possible way, or people who are deciding not to show up for their lives. And that's what drives me. It's not even a choice. It is, am I living or am I not living?
Yeah, it's like I always say, because being miserable sucks. Because people ask me, like, how are you always in a good mood? They're like, don't you just have days where you're just blah? I'm like, no, I don't. No. I said, because everything that I do is bigger than me. Being here in the gym, I have to show up for people. When I'm coaching my track team, I got to show up for them. Whether I'm hosting my platform or guesting on someone else's, I got to show up. I don't have time to be wallowing in misery, right? So like everything that I do, it's fulfilling. It lights my soul on fire. So no, I don't ever have those days. So how about you?
I don't. You know, it's funny because when I first got in recovery, and I've been drug and alcohol free since I was 19 years old, so it's been a long time. And my, you know, my youth was pretty dysfunctional and pretty messed up. And it's not about those stories. It's about what it did to my being and to my soul, and it tore it to shreds. And I had to rebuild from that. So when nobody in my family ever graduated from college or anything like that. I ended up going to college after I went to drug and alcohol treatment, just because I wanted to feel like I was trying to move my life forward. So I ended up going to college, and you know, that is neither here nor there. That didn't have anything to do with my life, other than I liken college to a dog park. It socialized me. It helped me socialize into the real world, because of where I came from was a very blue collar environment. It was a very you know, Protestant work ethic kind of place and kind of upbringing, which was fine, but it was different than a lot of people were living at that time. So anyway, I wanted to make money, and after I got out of college, I said, you know, I don't come from money. My family didn't have money. We had what we had, and that was completely fine. No gripes, no whines. I don't care. The question is, what am I going to do? So that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to go make some money, and I was fortunate to be able to do that, but it wasn't fulfilling. And so then I had to ask myself, okay, well, what is success to Daryl? You know, what is success to you? And I came up with the answer, which has to do with treating my entire life correctly, body, mind, heart, and soul, which is kind of my battle cry. But success to me became waking up in the morning with a smile on my face. And I've been doing that for a long, long time. And it speaks to exactly, Rob, what you were just talking about. It's, I haven't had a bad day in a long, long time. And it's miserable, sucks. And I just don't go there.
Yeah, see, and people have to, especially nowadays, what is the definition of a bad day, right? Like Saturday, we got 8 or 9 inches of snow here. I get back home and I have a flat tire, right? So it's a Saturday. It's a race against the clock. I'm calling places to see who can get it done. The roads are horrible, right? And I was texting someone, and I mean, yeah, it cost me a few hours of my day, got the tire fixed, all as well. But this person was like, "Oh, I'm sorry you're having a rough day." Like, a rough day? I'm fixing my tire. I'm fixing my tire. I'm not fighting for my life here, right? That would be a rough day.
Right.
Like somebody cracks their phone and like, "Oh my God, this day's going to hell." Like, over your phone? Like, right. I'm old enough to remember before we had phones. And now people's phones, like, it's their complete life. And again, that's not trying to belittle anyone, but at the end of the day, when we look at our problems, it's like, are they really problems, or is this something that you're just feeding into? What are your thoughts?
There are people that have real problems. There are people in this world that have real live problems, and I'm not one of them. No matter what happens, I'm not one of them. And people have, I've lost a lot of people in my life from, death or drugs or alcohol or whatever it is, like that sort of thing. Family members that I've had to usher out the door in my life because they're toxic and I don't live like them, and I'm not going to accept that kind of person in my life. I don't care who they are. So there are a lot of things I could say, oh, that's really terrible, or that really sucks. But you know what? It's just life. And the more I heard a long time ago that the less I get surprised by whatever life has in store for me, like, oh, that's just terrible, or oh, that's just, if I can go along life like this, then and I mean, at a frequency that allows me to have contentment and fulfillment and all those sorts of things. I don't have time to get down. I mean, I might look at something like the flat tire and be like, oh, that sucks. But it's not gonna, my heart rate isn't gonna go up probably one beat. It's just gonna be, all right, I gotta fix that. Like, who cares? It's just another thing to take care of. And to me, life is about taking care of our business and taking care of the responsibilities and understanding what I'm responsible for. And in the final analysis, what I'm responsible for is what I bring to the table every single day, whether it's attitude or work ethic or, how I'm treating others. All of those things matter. And if I'm doing right by me, and part of that being conscious thing, if I'm doing right by me, I'm automatically doing right by everybody else. I'm treating them the way that they deserve to be treated. And that's, for me, that's what it's about.
Yeah, boundaries. I mean, what you just described, that's boundaries, and you're not going to let people penetrate that boundary. It's like, I donated a kidney to one of my sisters in 2011. And for whatever reason, during that process, I felt my mortality. I was 38 at the time. And in that moment, I was like, you know what? I'm never again going to do something that I don't want to do. Like, I'm not. Like, and it can sound selfish. My best friend got married last July. I didn't go. Wish them well. Congratulations. I hope everything goes smoothly and you guys live out the rest of your lives, husband and wife. I said, but I won't be there. And it's just one of those things that I'm working on building something that's going to survive me. Like I'm in week 1 of an 8-week program. At the end of the eight weeks, I'm launching a speaking business where I'm going to help people take their past trauma and turn it into something inspirational, right? So to me, working on that and getting that out into the world is more important than attending like a party or a get together or a something. Now, that doesn't mean that I don't take time and enjoy life. I do. But like when I'm laser focused on something, nothing else matters outside of like a family member getting sick or injured, but nothing else matters. What are your thoughts?
I'm crazy focused on whatever the task is at hand. My wife kind of laughs at me because she's like, dude, you know, you gotta, because that's, you know, that's how, and that's a muscle for me. That's something I had to learn over time. Like all this stuff is muscles and have to be built and have to be fostered and have to be practiced. And yeah, I think, you know, what we allow into our lives, back in the day, we used to say, this is what they used to call boundaries. It used to be, you teach people how to treat you. And I believe that 100%. And I'm probably good at that to a fault, because I have a no BS policy. I just do. Yes. And it starts off with a no BS policy for me. Yes. And then that extends out into the world. But yeah, I mean, from a focus perspective, absolutely, I have no issue with that. And sometimes I've got to pull myself away because it's like, all right, dude, you got other stuff you have to attend to, you know, just to be conscious and to take care of the other items in life. But yeah, I mean, it's crucial, absolutely crucial.
So the people that you work with, what are some of their pain points? Like, what are the biggest issues that they're bringing to you?
You know, it really is, it's fears and it's inability to cross that chasm of, I want this, and then here's where you get it, and then how do I get from here to there? How do I get from here to there? And a lot of people want to do that without feeling any pain. And that's a problem, because life is going to be painful one way or the other. It's going to be painful over here because you're neglecting what you need to do, or it's going to be painful over here because you're actually doing what you need to do. But there's a reward on this end. And the reward on this end is not necessarily getting to the end product. The reward is doing what's necessary to know that you're heading in that direction. And that's the reward for me these days. I don't care. You know, I'm fortunate that I stopped, and I'll call it chasing money, at 48 years old. I was fortunate to be able to do that. And so that's not what I chase. What I chase is helping people. But I had a lot of fears that I had to get over, and I still have fears that I have to get over, you know, which is completely fine. I'm assuming that until they're kicking dirt on me, I'm going to have stuff that I need to get over. But that's what life is about. You know, it's about showing up for me. And so I don't care about the fears, you know. Again, it's a marker to say that I probably need to step into something. So to answer the question, it really is getting from this point over that chasm to this point, and understanding that it very likely will be painful and will include things you don't want to do, but that if you want to get here, you have to.
Yes, it's like we say a lot of the same things, just in different ways. I always say, on one side, you got problem. On the other side, you got solution. And fear, stress, anxiety all hang out in the middle. Right? Because it's like you have that thing that you know you want, but you have to do that thing that you don't want to do. You know, and then you end up stuck in that same place and then that same hamster wheel over and over and over. Like going back to what I was saying about the restaurant industry, it's like, if I could change one thing in my life, like I'll even take all the surgeries, I'll take the divorce, like I'll take all of that stuff that happened, is I would have left the restaurant industry sooner. Because once I got into fitness, you know, because like I used to dread going in. Like sometimes I would pull into the parking lot and I would have to sit for 10 minutes before I went inside. Like that's not a good place to be. So now it's like coming here to the gyms, like I want to be here. You know, like they want me to push them. Like they want the motivational talks, like they want all that stuff. And everything that I do, like I said earlier, it's positive and it's fulfilling. So like how people stay in something, even though I did it, but how people stay into something so long that they can't stand when there's so many opportunities out there, especially today. Like when I hear people today say there's no opportunities, I'm like, have you looked at TikTok? There are people with no education and no talent with 1 million followers. You know what I mean? And then you're going to tell me there's no opportunities? Come on now. What do you think about that?
Right. No, I agree. It's funny because when I was coming up, we would talk about the American dream and what does that mean and what is it and can you do it and all that sort of stuff. And I didn't think about, that necessarily, but I thought, you know what? I see people out there in the world that I don't know if they know what they're doing, and I don't know what kind of, what they're doing or what kind of a job it is or what kind of a business it is or whatever. But man, they look successful and they look like they're actually achieving something. And why can't I do that? That's the big question. Why can't I do that? And there is absolutely no reason I can't do that. And I didn't grow up thinking like that. My dad was a mechanic. My mom took care of us kids. And so it was a very blue collar environment. The rest of my family was, grandfathers, either cops or firefighters and lumber yards, that sort of thing. I'm working in lumber yards. And that was where I came from. So my dad said to me a long time ago when I was a kid, after I got out of drug treatment, he's like, hey, I can get you a job on the assembly line if you want one. And I'm like, and nothing wrong with, that work. I've done farm work. I've done carpentry. I've done, I've shoveled more manure than I can shake a stick at. And that's fine. It was great, hard work, but I declined because I wanted to do something different. And I, could I have made decent money working on the assembly line? Yeah, I could have done that. But I decided to take a risk and do something that I was scared to death to do, which was at that time, it was getting involved in a sales position. And I knew nothing about sales. I didn't study any of it. I didn't, nothing. And so that's the key. It's to be able to step into the unknown, right? To step into something that we don't know what the outcome's going to be, but I know there's that little voice, and it happens to me. There's that little voice that says, you know what? Even though this is scary, it's the way you need to go.
I want to circle back to something you said earlier. You said you teach people how to treat you, right? And that is so, so true. Like when I first got to this gym, there's a guy, he's still here. This is like 2.5 years ago. But to get my attention, he would whistle at me, right? And I'm like, I can typically let things go, right? But I was like, dude, I don't have 4 legs and a tail. I'm like, do not whistle at me. Like that's a lot of things I can brush off. I'm like, but that's disrespectful to whistle at another human being. And so, I mean, he did it a couple more times, but this one class, I like lashed him in front of the entire class, and he hasn't done it since. But so just to illustrate your point of you teach people how to treat you, like that's a great line.
Thank you. Well, it does. It takes what it takes, and relationships, whatever they are, whether it's, you see them once a week or, once every 2 or 3 days at the gym or whatever it is, or you see them in a business setting, or it doesn't matter. If there's something that doesn't sit right with me, because I walk out of my door every day and I don't necessarily think of it consciously anymore, but what can I contribute to the world? What can I do to make people feel better? Is it smiling at someone, passing them on the sidewalk, or saying good morning, or to the cashier at the grocery store, hey, how are you today? And striking up conversations, and very simple things like that help people. That might be the difference between somebody who has a bad day and somebody who has a good day, starting
Yes.
off with a smile. So what am I giving out there? And And not that I necessarily expect that from everyone, I don't, but I do expect that people are not going to be disrespectful. And if they're disrespectful to me or to someone that I'm in their proximity or I see it, I'm going to let them know. And they can do whatever they want to do with that. And that's completely fine with me. But I am going to advocate for treating other people the right way. I just think it's absolutely important, especially in the world we're living in today.
Yeah, and you can really do that with one sentence, right? I was doing a Spartan Beast, and I think we were in New Jersey, and we were about probably maybe 5 miles in. It was like a 14 to 15 mile race on a mountain. And as I'm going up the mountain, there's this woman. It was kind of chilly, and she just had on like a sports bra and booty shorts, right? So I was like, she did not do her homework on this race, right? So anyway, she just looked miserable. And as I'm walking by her, I just hear her say, "I can't do this. Like, I can't do this." So I had a backpack on and I had supplies. So I gave her some supplies. I was like, "Don't think about the end." Said, "Just think about the next mile. At the next mile, take these supplies and then get to the next mile." Okay, and just take it mile to mile. Like, if you think about the end, you're gonna end up quitting when you get back down the mountain. I said, so just think, get to mile 6, get to mile 7, get to mile 8. Right? And that's what people do in life. That's what people do in business. Right? It's like you can't just throw a house together. Right? There's steps. There's steps to building your business. There's steps to me growing my podcast. There was steps to me finding guests. And now I'm booking into September, and I do 4 days a week, right? So everything is a process, and you have to allow yourself to become who you need to be so you can get that thing that you want. To your point, you gotta feel the fear and do it anyway. Your thoughts?
Right. No, absolutely, Rob. I it's so crucial to understand, and one of the sayings that I heard long ago was, this growth stuff is a process, not an event. It's not like all of a sudden I'm going to be, this ripped, cut, in shape dude if I haven't been doing it, or I'm not going to be a successful business guy if I haven't learned how to be a successful business guy. I'm not going to be a great podcaster. I'm not going to be anything that I'm not practicing is not going to come to pass just because I want it. And I think that's really a crucial place that, that people can expand their understanding of, is that I honestly, and we talked about this a little bit earlier, but I don't, the end is great. The end is wonderful. Oh, I'm this, or I'm that, or I've done this, or I've done that. Fine. The journey is the cool part. The getting up every day and being committed to something and saying, you know what, I'm going to put my time in today. I'm going to learn something new. I'm going to expand what I believe. I'm going to expand what could be true in my life. All of these things. I think it's about expanding our understanding of what's actually possible. And if I'm putting limits on what's possible, I'm just putting limits on my life and how I wake up and what I do and what I believe. And the more I can expand that, the more conscious I become, and also the more capable and courageous I become, because I look at other people and I say, well, why not me? Why can't I also do that? Or why can't I also maybe surpass that? And there's no reason why not. The only reason why not is because, I'd get scared and decide not to. And that's not a reason.
Exactly. See, and I have a perfect illustration for that. So there was one day in class, one of the women, she had a kettlebell. And so I give out the exercise, and she starts walking toward the kettlebell rack. I was like, whoa, what are you doing? And she's like, that's too heavy. I said, how do you know? Like, you didn't even pick it up. You didn't even attempt the exercise. Right? And we were doing 3 rounds of the exercise, and she ended up making it all 3 rounds with good form with that kettlebell. But she heard the task and immediately was going for the easier route. Right? I think that's one of the biggest problems with society and with smartphones and with Google and now with AI is that we're creating a nation full of impatient people and people that don't want to go through the steps, and they don't want to play the long game. They want everything today. It's like, I want to just build my business today. And there's no fulfillment in that. Like when I opened up my gym, it took me probably a couple of years. I didn't have any credit. I didn't have any savings. And like I said, I dropped out of college. So I'm like, how am I going to do this? Right? I didn't say I can't do this. People were telling me I was crazy. This was in 2009 during the recession. Right? They're like, how are you going to start a business now? I'm like, listen, just because you don't have the balls to try, don't put that energy on me. I said, I found something where I can help people believe that they can run through a brick wall. Okay, and I'm gonna step into that superpower and see what doors open down the road. So we fast forward about a year and a half. I have like 150 clients on my own. Like I got them on my own, and 2 people approached me, and I ended up opening up a 5,000 square foot facility. So it's like if you just listen to the naysayers who aren't doing what you're trying to do, right? You're never going to get there. So I traveled the country, going to fitness marketing events, learning branding, like I got backdoor educated. Like the guy I interviewed yesterday, he was shocked that I didn't have a degree. I was like, because I got educated in a different way. It's like I actually mentor people with masters and PhDs. And that's not to toot my own horn, just to say the path doesn't have to be the same for everyone. Right? Some people go to college and they have that success. Some people go to college and are doing nothing in that field right now. So like it's all relative.
I'm one of those, Rob. I'm one of those went to college not doing anything in my field. I got a criminal justice degree, and And because I was scared to death, I really was. I was scared to death of business. I was scared to death of finance. I was scared to death of marketing because I didn't know what they meant. I didn't know what it was. I didn't grow up in an environment where I was surrounded by any of that or introduced to any of that. I like to joke, and it's sad joke. It's true, but I didn't know the difference between wholesale and retail when I got out of college. And so when I got out of college, I went to go do carpentry because I was a framer, and that's what I had done through college, and along with some farm work stuff. And so it was really easy for me to go work with my hands and build things and work with animals and shovel manure and all that sort of stuff. I could do all that, but I was scared to death of jumping into something that I didn't understand. But that's where the reward is. The reward is in things that we don't yet understand how to do. And I think the reward is the learning part. It's the learning how to do it. Like you said, I love your story because you're just out there doing it, man. There aren't, and I think that's awesome. There aren't the questions and like, oh my, how am I going to do this? How am I going to do that? Oh, it's so scary and this and that. It's like, just dive in. And sometimes when you dive in, there's no water in the pool, and it sucks, and it hurts. and that's part of the learning. I don't recommend it, but that's part of the learning process that I have to get a little beat up, and I've gotten beat up, I've gotten dinged, I've gotten all kinds of different things, and that's okay. Because I kept going. Now, if I stopped when I got hurt, and if I stopped when I was scared, that would be me failing. But as long as I keep getting up and going, then it's me being successful, even if I don't have crazy money in the bank or some sort of, like big prize at the end. I'm successful because I'm staying on the journey. And I think that's an important distinction for people to understand, that success is in that journey of keeping on.
Agreed. And I think what would help too is if people, obviously you have to become who you need to be, but you also want to do your best to stay in your zone of genius. You know, like with me, my zone of genius is in front of the camera. I do struggle a bit off the camera with like the leads and the follow, because I don't like it. It's boring to me. Like, I know it's the lifeblood of the business, but I have someone else who does it. You know, so
Right.
I can stay in my zone of genius. Like, put me on any stage, give me a mic, I can MC events, all of that stuff. I have no issues with any of that. Finding the events, that's a different story. You know, because like that's not my zone of genius. You know, so you outsource those things that you really don't want to do. Understand it. You know, I can teach people about lead gen and all that other stuff. I just don't like to do it. You know, so this though, I talk all day long. Absolutely. God, I hosted. It was like what, like a 9-hour event. It was a Deca Fit competition up at UConn in Connecticut, and it was a blast. Like, it didn't even feel like it was 9 hours. And why? Because I was in my element, like doing those things that I enjoy doing. Like, a lot of people, they get to the stuff that they don't want to do, and then they think that's a sign that like this isn't my lane. It's like, no, it's like, again, to your point, take the hits, right? Take the hits, keep going through. Like, what's the quote? If you're going through fire, keep going, something like that.
Right.
You know, yeah, you got to build that mental resilience. So, all right, so you said you got to go in about 6 minutes. So let's talk about your business, what you do, who you serve.
Well, I'm in the process, and it's interesting because I'm transitioning right now from it's a long story, but I was in the business world. And then I got into doing some consulting in that business, and then I decided that I wanted to write a couple books. So I wrote 2 books. The first one is called When I Stopped Fighting, and that's my story, which is a whole bunch of stories, you know, some funny, some sad, some rip your guts out. A lot of people have said that they laughed and they cried throughout the whole book, and that you know, it was just, I wrote it because I wanted to help people who could relate to a story like mine, where they come from a certain place and they have issues and they turn things around, and then what's next? What do I do now? And the next step is live your life, capital LIVE, and show up for your life, capital show up. Not oh, I got to be on time, but what am I going to do when I get there? That's showing up. And so I wrote the first book, and that went very well. And then I along that same time, I wrote another book, and it's called When You Stop Fighting. And that's been my journey up until this point. And I just hired a firm to help me. Like you said, it's a Napoleon Hill principle from Think and Grow Rich. It's you know, hire the people that know how to do what you don't know how to do. And
Yes.
There's a whole lot of stuff in this life that I don't know how to do. So, which is cool, because that means all the things I need to learn.
Yes.
But now I'm going to be coaching very soon. I'm going to be helping people with some of the skills and some of the mindset that they're going to need to move their lives in a different direction, and to cut off that self-defeating mentality, and to start showing up for their lives in a meaningful way and changing themselves for the better, and building themselves into people who are conscious and capable and shock proof and have a mind like a bear trap, all that wonderful stuff. So that's what I'm doing now. And I'm transitioning right now from being an author to moving into helping people in what I think is going to be a more effective way. And then some point, Rob, when I grow up, I'm going to do public speaking, but I'm not there yet. So
nice.
Yeah, I would say, you know, in the next 12 months, I've got to clear my plate and choke down a few things, and then I'll move into other stuff.
Okay, well, you seem to have your stories pretty well dialed in. That's half the battle. It's half the battle when people get on these stages, and you can tell they're searching for what to say. Like whenever I'm a guest, I think there's only once I've been on well over 100 podcasts. There was just once where the host gave me something where I had to think for a second. But my stories are like so dialed in, and I can come at them from different angles too. It's like that's the beauty of speaking. It's like you're never gonna tell your full story in a 45-minute episode or a 1-hour episode. It's not gonna happen. But you get to learn which parts of your story you want to weave in depending on what the show is about and what the audience needs to hear. It's a great field, and you can make so much money, right? But before I kick it to you for the final word, are you familiar with the speaker Eric Thomas?
I've heard the name, but not familiar.
Okay, yeah, he's one of like the top dogs. And he's up there with Tony Robbins and all them, Gary Vee. Yeah, he's up there with them. So I went to his speaker boot camp in 2017 down in Atlanta, Georgia. And as I'm sitting in this conference, there's 41 people in there. And I was like, I paid $3,000 for this. So there's 41 people who paid $3,000. I was like, you do that math real quick, right? I was like,
right.
I gotta figure out how to flip that. Like, how do I get on the other side of that? So this program I'm working on now is gonna do just that. And so in that program, there's like 160 of us in this program. And I don't want it to be like that. I want maybe 10 people who I can really spend time with them, help them fine tune their stories and do all that stuff, you know? And that's going to be valuable because I'll be working with less people. So you can charge more, give them better service, and be on that side of that equation. And it's not even so much about the money. It's just the fact that that's a thing. Like, that's right. Really a thing. Like, I spent 20 years punching a time clock when I could have been doing this thing. But in school, you're not told that. It's like I do talks at career days, and I'll pick the students' brains, and they think like, because for example, I spoke at one in September, and I said to the kids, I'm like, what's your hourly rate, right? What's your hourly rate? They're like, minimum wage, $15 an hour. You know, I said, you know what mine is? $2,000, and their heads were like, right? Because like at that age, they're not conditioned to think like that. So now, thankfully, there's people like you and I who can reprogram these adults that are looking to break free from that corporate stranglehold, you know?
Right.
So feel free to comment on that if you want to, and then give us some final words. I know you got to get out of here.
Yeah, you know, I think that we are, and we've been conditioned, and this is why it takes mentors and teachers and coaches to decondition. And I was conditioned for the same thing. You were conditioned for the same thing, but how do we break out of that? And it takes, for me, it took wanting to emulate people who I admired. And the first people that I admired were the people who had, you know, some calm and some peace, and it seemed like they had some serenity, which I did not have. And so I needed that first. And I was able to work that into my life to garner that peace of mind, to set the stage for other things that I wanted to do. And then I looked at successful people, and I said, you know, one of the first people I went to see when I was a young person in my 20s, early 20s, was Tony Robbins. And you know, and I saw, you know, Deepak Chopra and you know, a bunch of different people from different ways of living and different ways of looking at the world. So it's crucial, and that's what I want to help teach people now, because I've been through it, and I've you know, I want to say I've done it, but I'm also doing it. It's never going to be done. It just won't be done. So a message that I would leave is, you know, think about expanding your mind and expanding what's possible and expanding what you're capable of, because the world wants to put us in a box. You're this person, and you're supposed to do this, and this is all you can do, and you gotta, you know, you've got to help other people reach their dreams because the business owner needs you to be that cog in the wheel. Well, what about if you decide to be the business owner? What if you decide to be the person who's running the show? And you can decide that anytime. So expand what you believe is possible. And I think that's probably the biggest message. And then when you understand, or at least have a larger version of what's possible, then it's just a matter of showing up. Then it's just a matter of showing up as the person that you need to be successful. And then you're on your way. So thank you, Rob. Appreciate it.
Love it. I have nothing else to add to that. That was very, very well said. So like I said, I know you got to get out of here. So thank you for taking the time. If let me just show you this quick. If you want to be on an upcoming panel, I usually bring back up to 6 of my guests, and we pick one topic only, and we round table that one topic. And people would think like, oh, people are going to say the same things. No, they're not. No, they're not. And I can use the word vacation. You can say vacation to 100 people, and you're going to get 100 different answers, right? So, yeah. So if you're interested in that, let me know. When I do the next one, I'll reach out.
I'd love to, man. I'll tell you right now, I would absolutely love to.
Awesome. Good. All right. Well, you enjoy the rest of your day and crush your next show.
Thanks, brother. You as well.
All right.
Thanks for having me.
All right. Thanks. Take care.
All right, you too.
You've been listening to Shut Up and Grind. We hope you've gotten some useful and practical information from this show. Robert has over 20 years experience pouring his knowledge and expertise at many events in the service and fitness industry, as well as secondary schools and universities. He has a true passion for helping others break through the barriers that are holding them back. To book Robert B. Foster to speak or to reach out, go to robertbfoster.com. Till next time, shut up and grind.